Because I'm going to tell you something. Long-term stress is not real. It's going to sound really odd, but we're going to see why I have to say that. It's because the ruminations brain process, the reason why it's there is to look for the worst thing that can happen. That's that brain's job, to look at everything and go for a worst case scenario. Then you'd look at me and be like, well, why do we have that? That doesn't make sense. Evolutionary-wise, makes great sense. Two cavemen stand outside the very same cave. One of them has the start of the rumination brain or the storytelling brain. The other one doesn't. They both look at the same cave. They both want to go inside because it's like, hey, guess what? There's water in there. It's sheltered. Looks like it's out of the wind. Looks pretty good. The one with the rumination brain is like, wait a minute. I should be careful going into the cave because there could be a bear. Who lives longer? The one with the rumination brain. He lives longer. Since he lives longer, he gets to have more kids. And because he has more kids, he's passing on that rumination gene. Out of his kids, the one with the best storytelling brain lives longer and has more kids. So that program gets better and better and better as time evolved. It was a life-saving program. It made us recognize threats. And we all have the storytelling brain. There's no choice. We all have it. And I'm going to give you a great example just on this. Here's a family Christmas photo. It's the family's going to get together and go for a nice Christmas drive. They're going to head out on a nice, peaceful winter excursion. They're all singing Christmas carols. They watch the sun go down as there's beautiful snows on the street. And a tractor-trailer unit rounds the corner. Where did we go? Was everyone like, oh, they're going to have fun singing Christmas carols? Or did everyone be like, oh, that's an accident? That's a rumination brain. If we're watching a movie and somebody's talking to somebody else and they're going to cross a crosswalk without looking, what do we expect to happen? Absolutely. The movies love our rumination mind, right? Media loves our rumination mind. They know how it works. We expect it. We all have it. Interesting, humans are the only species on this planet that ruminates. No other creature on this planet suffers from elevated cortisol levels. Not unless it's a rat in a cage and you're electrocuting him on a regular basis. Which, by the way, electrocuting, real stress, right? The rat with this cheese is not worried about storing enough cheese in his cheese RSP fund so he can retire. He eats till he's full, he stores what he has, and then he just lives life. And when he wakes up and he's hungry, he eats more, but he's not worried. For those of you that are hunters, you're all going to be like, that guy's got to be worried. But that buck does not worry all year long being like, oh my God, hunting season's coming. They don't. Imagine us as a species, if there was an allotment of time that a more advanced species could come here and hunt us, we would be stressed to the max. That would be the only thing we'd be concerned about, is to get ready for the human hunting season opening, right? We wouldn't want to be caught. They don't care at all. I've talked to some hunters that are like, yeah, but the animal's behavior changes. What about that? I'm like, oh, that's just because they recognize there's more predators. Deer will hang out in a certain area, but if wolves move in, the deer moves out. So it's not that they're ruminating. Now we're going to learn the difference between real stress and false stress. And we're going to realize that our long-term stress is truly false. Is this real? Getting attacked by this bear, is this real stress? Yep. You will function the best you've ever done in your life. Your body's going to hammer you with adrenaline and epinephrine. Your blood vessels in your arms are going to constrict, forcing more blood into your heart and your lungs, so you're more powerful. And it does that so when the bear bites you, you don't bleed as bad. The time is going to feel like it slows down because your brain gets so stimulated that instead of processing 50 megabytes in information a second, they estimate it'll process 10 times that information. That's why a lot of people will describe a high-stress scenario as slow motion, or they see an accident and they're like, oh, suddenly everything went slow motion. Time was still moving at the same speed. Your brain was just working 10 times better than it ever did before. So the moment we get attacked by a bear, we're primed. It's real. This real? Yep. Getting mugged? Real stress. Same thing. We'll function the best we ever did. This guy's stress? Is this real? Absolutely. Will he figure out his stress in probably 30 seconds? Yeah, either he's going to get away, that dart in the bear's butt is going to work, and he's going to get away, or it's not going to work, and the bear's going to kill him. It's that simple. That's what we were designed. That's what we evolved to do. I make you a bet, in his brain, he feels like he's got lead weights tied to his feet, that he can't run fast enough, because he's got such a chemical surge in his body that his body feels slow. But he's running the best he ever did in his life. False stress. The media loves this. Media loves false stress. Everyone's always like, why don't they put good news on the news? Because we don't have a good news brain. We have a rumination or storytelling brain. It only likes bad news. And we all get it. Somebody could tell you something that's really good that happened today, and you're like, oh yeah, that's really nice. And then they tell you something bad, and what do you want to do? You want to share that with other people. You want to be like, hey, did you hear what happened today on X, Y, and Z? So they know it. So that's why the news only gives bad news, because we have a part of our brain that's obsessed by it. Anyone remember this? Y2K. Absolutely amazing to watch. For those of you that may not know what this is, in the year 1999, when the clocks were supposed to switch to the year 2000, somebody, somewhere, and we don't even know where it started, came out and was like, hey, wait a minute. I don't think the programs can handle the zeros. What can happen? Blew up, because we have rumination mind. Everyone, it was the end of the world. It was crazy. Best Buy even put on stickers on their devices that they were selling to remind people, hey, just shut it off, because we really don't know what's going to happen. And what's amazing is that the doomsday prepper community, it blossomed. That was really the start of all the whole prepping. After that, before that, it was a real underground subculture, right? But it normalized it. And they sold a lot of blankets, a lot of gas, a lot of everything else for Y2K. What happened? The next day, people woke up with a hangover. That's all that happened. It was just another day. Did people profit off of a rumination brain? Oh yeah, big time. More recently, 2012. This was phenomenal to watch, because now there was big forums and big social media, and messages got spread so quickly. So you could watch the infection pass from person to person to person. So if you really don't know what 2012 was, it was a once in roughly 13,000 year astrological and a cycle where all the planets line up in a straight line with the dark rift in the galaxy. So when you look at the Milky Way and you see that dark band, everything lines up perfect. Happens every 13,000 years. If we didn't have a rumination brain, we'd be like, wow, I'm alive in a 1 in 13,000 year event. Awesome. But we have a rumination brain, and it took one person to be like, wait a minute. We don't even know who this person is. Said, there's this Mayan calendar, and it resets every 13,000 years. Actually, they didn't say reset. It ends at 13,000 years. But what do we notice about that calendar? It's round. It resets. But no, it took a person to be like, hey, these Mayans really knew their astrology, and their calendar, oddly enough, ends at the same day this galactic alignment happens. Instead of looking at it being like, the Mayans reset their calendar on this rare galactic alignment. No. It went this way, and it started from like, what does that mean, to this. It was the end of the world. The polls were supposed, like it was, and what was interesting on these forums that I was watching, we're talking highly educated people. Harvard professors, NASA people, everybody was on there saying, well, this is my theory. None of the theories were good, but this is my theory of what's going to happen. The poles were going to flip, the crustal plate was supposed to shift, the oceans were supposed to swallow the world. People were linking it to various religions, because every religion has its own Armageddon, so they're just saying, here's my evidence, it's real. And guess what? They sold a lot of prepping supplies. which is really weird because I don't think blankets and candles and gas is going to help you very much with this, right? But they sold a lot. And they dug into people's storytelling brain. It was an amazing marketing thing to watch, right? Because I was taking it as an observer, knowing rumination brain, I was taking it from an observer looking in, and then seeing everyone's plan. And nobody that came up with a theory of like, we're just screwed, so let's have fun. Nobody said that, right? They all had a plan. Remember this? Peak oil. Oil was supposed, and there's a lot of documented, well-educated papers written on the fact that oil was supposed to reach its peak, and then we're going to go past the glut, and it was supposed to become excessively rare. So for normal people to heat their houses and drive a car was going to be really expensive, to the fact they were saying that normal people wouldn't be able to afford to fly anywhere because that would be an elitist thing to do. And everyone worried about peak oil. Oil would be too expensive. But weird. What was the next thing that people talked about that they wanted to ruminate about? Very same people. I've read a lot of articles about peak oil. The very same theories were written by the same people, but two sides of the scale. So the same dude wrote about peak oil, and then the same dude also wrote about the oil glut. Right? So it's like, well, make up your mind, right? It's one or the other.